Hello everyone, in this video I'll be giving you a beginner's guide to Baldur's Gate 3 and giving you some tips and tricks to make your journey in the Sword Coast that much better. So, Baldur's Gate 3 comes with a lot of complex Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition rule sets that may not make the most sense to you, and I'll try to make these a little bit more easy to understand as we go through. Whenever you first play the game, you're faced with some choices, so you got to choose a race, your class, etc. The race and subrace can't be changed later, but you can change your class, so don't worry too much if you pick something that you don't absolutely love. So yeah, that is one thing when you're getting started. But into the actual gameplay itself, there's a few things that you want to do first when you first get into the world. So you're going to start off roughly down near the bottom here, and you want to make your way up. Obviously, this is going to be one of the first places you go, but this is where you have merchants, which is extremely important early on because you want to be able to buy things and sell your items. So getting to the Emerald Grove here is very important. But also this building in particular is important too, because this is how you'll be able to respec your character and add hirelings to your party, which are basically mercenaries that you can assign different classes to, and they don't work like companions do, but they're there to help out. And whenever you see these ancient sigil circles here, these are going to be your warp points. So anytime that you go to the map, you'll have all of these different spots that you can warp around to, giving you a lot of freedom to kind of set up in a spot, move around, and not have to worry too much about it. There's obviously some big spots that you got to go to in the game, but it's for the most part pretty straightforward in where it's going to draw you to. So exploration is obviously quite huge in Baldur's Gate 3, and whether you play on keyboard and mouse or controller, you're going to want to be moving around often and taking in the scenery. So there is some places like here where you can get into the Emerald Grove. This is one of the first spots you're going to want to go to. There's a couple vendors here that are extremely important to know about because selling your items is very important. And I'll get into items because they're really a big part of this game. So you can go and you can obviously trade with any merchant here. So whenever you go, you can talk to them. But whenever you talk to them, there's also another option here where you can just trade right down the bottom. So you can just click that. Some characters don't actually talk about trading, but you can trade with them. So you can see here, bunch of different items. Be mindful of the gold cost for some of these because some items may look great, but they end up taking up all your gold, and you're going to want to have a bit of gold here and there. However, gold is not that hard to find in Baldur's Gate 3, so don't feel too bad if you end up spending a bunch of it. But in particular, there's going to be some scrolls that you're going to want. Obviously, weapons. Health potions can be important too because you can actually throw them to get the effects, and it will heal you and also remove burning. And also, you want to have a good amount of camp supplies, but I feel like this game throws a lot of them at you. Two things that are important are like scrolls or potions of Featherfall, because there's a couple places early on in the game that you're going to want to use those, as well anything animal speaking. So if you can find a potion of animal speaking, those are great because it's better than having this spell prepared to be able to speak with animals, as that opens up a lot of different things in the game. Now these three items in particular are quite important. Shovels, you only need to have one of these, and I always recommend having a shovel because you'll roll survival checks. When you do, you're going to find areas that you can dig up treasures, which you have to have a shovel for. So just having one of these, they don't weigh too much, is all you need, but they don't cost a lot of gold. Just make sure you have one. Also, thieves tools, these will allow you to open up locks, and trap disarm kits will also allow you to obviously disarm traps. So these three items are important. You want to be buying multiple of these, but shovel's fine. And here you can see the scroll of Featherfall, so this is a nice one to have early on. I'd also recommend having a scroll of Misty Step. You can see here, this uses a bonus action. Single use. Anyone can use these scrolls, and since this doesn't do damage, you can have your fighters use the scroll of Misty Steps if you really need them to set up. Let's say you have a melee based class and you need to get right up close to an enemy. You can use the scroll of Misty Step to reposition yourself and get them up close, because when we get into combat, we only have one action, one bonus action, and one reaction. Now there's ways to get more of these, but that's for a little bit later on in the game. But traditionally for your action, you're going to get one attack or be able to cast one spell. So like, for example, Fireball. You can cast that spell with it. However, you also are, if you're playing a martial-based class, so like a fighter or a ranger, a paladin, once they hit level 5, their action will end up allowing them to do 2 attacks. And then if you play a fighter at level 11, you can do 3 attacks. So your action doesn't always mean like an attack. It can be multiple depending on, you know, how you're going through the game. Now you can see here I also have an offhand attack. So my main hand attack, I'm playing as a wizard right now. I wouldn't recommend doing your main hand attacks. Obviously as a wizard, you're best off doing spells. But I have an offhand weapon. So when you have an offhand weapon, it'll use a bonus action to make an attack. It's going to be a bit of a weaker attack, but it's still an attack nonetheless. So for any enemies that are low on health, sometimes using this bonus action attack is very useful. And you can also toggle the dual wielding here by pressing R on the keyboard. On controller, there's a symbol that you have to press, but just make sure your dual wielding's off if you don't want to waste your bonus action, because normally when you go to attack, you use your attack and your bonus action. So if I turn this off, you'll see my attack now just use my action. It doesn't follow up with that offhand attack. And you can also switch between your melee and ranged weapons too, depending on if you have a bow attached to your character. And I recommend all characters having a bow. Eventually you're going to find hand crossbows. I have a gun mod here, which is basically the same thing. But if you get hand crossbows, you can use 2 of them, and then you got your option for a bonus action attack with an offhand, which is really nice. So I'd recommend looking for those early on. Whenever you come to the Emerald Grove here, there's going to be that vendor there I just spoke with. There'll be a strange ox that I recommend you talking with. Anytime that you see something that looks a little bit funky, I'd recommend going and investigating. Like you can see here, we got a bunch of different crates. So sometimes you can find food. That was camp supplies right there. That's worth taking. Sometimes it'll be nothing. Sometimes it'll be gold. It pays to explore. And you can also on computer press the Alt key to see anything that's nearby. Anything red you'll be stealing, so I don't recommend doing that. But yeah, it just helps you with locating these items. Now, there's going to be a vendor around here as well. They're not here for me because I've progressed the story a little bit. But yeah, in the Emerald Grove, there are a few people that you can purchase from. So it's nice to get to know where they're at just so that you can quickly go and purchase items and sell your items off when you need them. Now, back, I guess, into the combat. Picking your spells is going to be important. And I'll be covering, I do a bunch of build guides, so if you're curious about a build, I do videos. I've covered every single class and subclass in the game, so you can search it up on my channel. But for the most part, damage spells are going to be pretty useful. Scorching Ray is a good level 2 damage spell. A very underrated spell is Hold Person. So this will actually, when you cast this, the character you cast it on has to make a wisdom save. And if they don't make the wisdom save, they're held in place, they can't act or react, so they do nothing. They're taken out of combat, which is extremely useful because Baldur's Gate 3 is all about the action economy. And any attacks that you make on this target from within 3 meters will always be a critical hit. So whenever you cast this, you can just basically hold a person down and then have your fighter go in and take them out with critical hits. This is a very underrated spell, especially because you can target multiple targets. So every time you upcast it, you'll use a higher level spell slot. So I have level 3 spells here. I can target 2 people with this, which is huge because that's one spell cast. It could take 2 enemies out of combat and then just makes it easy for your others to take them down. Crowd control and damage are huge in this game. And I wouldn't fully recommend going all in on like healing, because healing is actually not as strong as just taking out enemies will be. But yeah, you get a number of spells. Another really good early game one is Magic Missile, because this is guaranteed to hit for damage. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but having something guaranteed to hit is very nice when maybe you have a bow attack that's only 50% likely to hit. Another extremely useful early game spell is Command. This one is nice because you can use, whenever you do this, there's Command Grovel, which will knock creatures prone, and then they don't have a turn whenever you use this. There's also Command Approach, which you can make them come towards you. So if you have crowd control set up like grease, you can make them walk through the grease. You can also make them drop their weapon and steal their weapon. So that's a really nice option to go with if you want to be able to get their weapon. Take their weapon, they become useless. They don't have their weapon. Another really good early game spell is Bless. So this will give them a 1d4 bonus to attack rolls and saving throws. So an attack roll is the number that you roll to hit an enemy. And I guess I'll give a little breakdown on that. So an attack roll, whenever you see your armor class here, this is the value that they have to roll to be able to hit you. So they roll a d20, and or I guess it depends on their weapon type. And this will give a 1d4 bonus, so a 4-sided die. It could be 1 through 4 to your attack rolls. Saving throws are the same thing for spells. Like here, you can see right on above the level 1 spell slot, whenever the little tooltip there, you'll see Wisdom save. This one here is a Wisdom save. This one's a Dexterity save. Things like Fireball will be Dexterity saves. Glyph of Warding, Dexterity save. This is a Constitution save. This is a Dexterity save. Most of your spells are going to have a type of save associated with it. Some people will take half damage if they save. Some will take no damage if they save. But getting Bless up gives you additional saving throw. You roll a saving throw when someone tries to cast a spell at you. So with this, Bless will give you an additional bonus to your attack rolls and a bonus to your saving throws, making sure that you stay alive longer, which is really nice. Another good cleric spell is the Healing Word bonus action. Use this to pick up your downed allies. It's not a lot of healing. It's a 1d4 plus 4. This will also scale, and you can upcast as well. But another good spell is Guidance, which will give you a 1d4 bonus to your ability checks. So whenever you're in a conversation with someone, if you need to roll a check, you can use Guidance to boost up your saves. Now, another thing is when you're talking to people, you're going to see sometimes that there'll be certain dialogue that you can get that will give you options for opening things up and getting into more plot points. Always be talking to your companions. And I guess on the topic of talking to companions, our camp and resting menu is important. So you can short rest. I recommend always short resting so you can restore 50% of your health points, and warlocks will get their spell slots back. So after any fight, you should always short rest. Don't just use potions to heal yourself. Use your short rest because you get 2 of them per day. And then once you pass your 2 per day, you can long rest. And don't be afraid about using up your camp supplies because there's actually quite a bit here. So you have enough camp supplies to restore spell slots. You can actually also do a partial rest. But the reason that I'm saying to long rest is because it's going to push the story forward. So whenever you're playing through the game, obviously the companions have a big piece in the story, but being able to rest will help that push it forward. So that is really important to make sure that you're doing just in order to get the most out of the game. Also, we can go in and check our spells. So if you press K on the keyboard, this will bring up your spells. Some will prepare their spells, like clerics will have prepared spells that you can swap out at any time. Wizards will too, and they can learn specific spells that you can swap out, and they can also learn them from scrolls. Whereas you see here, we can actually, as a cleric, you can swap out spells at any time for whatever type of combination you want. So you can get some pretty cool options going. Also on this menu is where you're going to see your reaction. So if you have like the shield spell, it's a reaction. Anything else a reaction base will be here, and you can make sure that you click it so that it'll trigger automatically or whether the game pauses for your input. And you also have your common spells here, depending on what you're playing as. You're going to get different options there. And yeah, the spells are important, but also knowing your journal. So this is going to be all your quests here. So you can go through and it'll give you kind of a prompt on where to go. Mostly it's just exploring, but you can also pick one of these quests to be able to follow and work on. Our map will have those little pings on there for you to explore. Inspiration points, these will allow you to re-roll anytime you fail a dice roll. So each of your companions is going to have a associated background, and your character will too. I'd recommend the Guild Artisan because that's what's going to give you the most of your inspiration. So that can be a really good option. Dialogue will recount your dialogue, and the tutorial's there. Another thing is also knowing that there's alchemy, so you can actually create different items through alchemy. If you press K on the keyboard or H on the keyboard, then you'll also have your spell book and equipment there. This is under the character page, and the tadpole abilities, which you should use. They're pretty strong, I'll be honest. There is something in the mid game that's important, but you won't turn into a squid by using these. It's all on your choice on what happens, but they're pretty powerful, so I recommend using them. Also, having potions is really nice because you can go here, right click and throw them. And when you throw a potion, you're going to see if it's going to heal someone. So you can just throw it there and apply it to a teammate. You can also huddle people together and throw it on the ground for being able to apply that to everyone. And if you're having a hard time, you can put it into turn-based mode and literally group everyone right up together so that no one misses out on the effects of something. So you can have them in a very close huddle here, go into your inventory, and then I guess grab what you're wanting to throw. And then you can just throw it down so that everyone gets applied with the potion. So this is a good way if you need to heal people. You can just do it that quick way, as there's some items later on that you want to apply to everyone. So that's a quick way. Another last little tip is use Long Strider often. It's another spell you can get that'll increase your movement speed by 3 in combat, which is actually very, very useful. So I'd highly recommend using that because being able to move around is super important when you're in a fight, and not having enough mobility can actually hamper your fight quite a bit. But I'll be doing another video later talking about some further tips and some combat guides. For the most part, pick what you want, enjoy it, take your time with this game, do lots of long rests, talk to your companions, learn their story, do their story, and you'll have an incredible time playing Baldur's Gate 3. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave in the comments. I'm always quick to respond to them and get back to you on what needs to be done, or if you have any ideas or anything like that that you want some I guess conversation on, just leave a comment. Feel free to hit the subscribe button below. I post Baldur's Gate 3 content all the time. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you all in the next video.